Hello, friends and colleagues, and welcome to episode 99 of Dermosphere. I am one of your hosts. My name is Luke Johnson. I'm a pediatric dermatologist and general dermatologist with the University of Utah. And joining me today is...
This is Michelle Tarbox. I'm an associate professor of dermatology and dermatopathology at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center in beautiful, sunny Lubbock, Texas.
And sitting next to you is the Pimping Bell. The Pimping Bell exists to highlight especially noteworthy or question-worthy content. So when the bell rings, perk up your ears. As you know, here at Dermosphere, our mission is to bring you discussions of some of the latest research in the world of clinical dermatology to save you some time from flipping through journal articles, etc. So I don't do any cosmetics, except in case the occasional patient will sneak through and I'll, talk to them about cryoing their solar lentigines or something. So, and I'm honestly just not that interested in it, but I am interested in human psychology, which I think is why the next article caught my attention, even though it has to do with cosmetics. So it's out of the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology, in fact. This is another CertLink article, by the way, and it's called Understanding and Treating Different Patient Archetypes in Aesthetic Medicine. Authors are out of Australia and the UK and include Stephen Liu, Michael Silberberg, and Jean-Kiel Chantre. So this article is the outcome, I assume there are other outcomes as well, but of a gigantic market research endeavor that included 27 specific projects, over 54,000 participants, and 17 countries, all of which was sponsored by Allergan, the pharmaceutical/cosmetics industry. And based on the responses of these over 54,000 participants, these researchers were able to separate patients who were interested in cosmetic procedures into four main categories, which they call archetypes. So if you've got a patient who wants a cosmetic procedure, you should think to yourself, which archetype did this person fall into? And the goal here is to facilitate the clinician-patient relationship so that the clinician can more quickly understand the goals of the patient, present the patient with more appropriate treatment options, and can build rapport and trust. So the four archetypes are called beautification, transformation, correction, and positive aging. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail for them. And some of this is like my interpretation of their description here. So beautification, the beautification archetype. This is a fancy person who is knowledgeable about aesthetics and pays attention to fashion, trends, social media, and wants to look like a glamorous celebrity. Again, part of that's my interpretation of how they've written it out here. The transformation archetype. This archetype seems similar to the beautification archetype, but they want to enhance their cosmetic appearance for a particular goal, such as to get ahead in their career or to find a mate. And apparently this is especially prominent, or at least it's more readily acknowledged, in some Asian cultures. So apparently the Korean language, for example, has several phrases that refer to this specific issue. So like they refer to marriage cosmetic surgery and career cosmetic surgery, and that's like a thing that's recognized in Korea. So for this sort of patient, the authors recommend that you consider starting with the most transformative procedure in order to build trust in your ability to create such transformations. And by the way, they have some photographs in here, before and after pictures, and boy, these people are good. It's like really good results. And as far as I could tell, this wasn't surgery. This was like mostly fillers. So that's the beautification archetype, the transformation archetype. There's the correction archetype. I think this one's pretty easy to wrap your brain around. So these patients have specific defects that they don't like. They're usually real defects, so can be perceived or blown out of proportion. And these can be congenital or acquired. Like, man, my acne scars. If I could just get rid of my acne scars, I would be a happy man. Or this wrinkle across the center of my forehead. Boy, why is this one spot wrinkled? Can we please do something about that? And then the positive aging archetype. So these patients tend to be more interested in subtle, natural changes to their cosmetic appearance. And they want to look the best that they can for their age. They often have been considering cosmetic treatments for some time and are afraid of looking artificial or having look done because they have seen pictures of celebrities that probably kind of don't really look like themselves anymore after certain cosmetic procedures. So for these folks, you want to start off with subtle, gentler changes to their cosmetic appearance, maybe like retinoids and neurotoxins rather than breaking out 10 liters of filler right away. So those are the archetypes. Once again, beautification, transformation, correction, and positive aging. The authors caution several times to be on the lookout for patients with body dysmorphic disorder, and we have discussed that, particularly in the context of cosmetic dermatology, with guest Tony Picus, psychologist who investigates this in particular. And the authors of this study also mentioned that certain patients, of course, will have overlap among different archetypes, and they can evolve from one to another. Though honestly, they didn't emphasize that all that much. So they seem to think these 4 archetypes are pretty good for dividing your 54,000 cosmetic patients. They can fall into one of these 4 categories. And they end with a quote that I thought was rather validating for cosmetic dermatologists, even though I'm not one of them. They say, in varying degrees, improvement of facial aesthetics is all about self-empowerment, and most patients pursue treatment with the anticipation that it will improve their self-confidence and psychosocial well-being. And I want to make people self-empowered and improve their self-confidence and psychosocial well-being. So even though I don't do a lot of cosmetics, I hope that those are the results that the patients get from it. Michelle, you do cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find these archetypes, do you think they'll be helpful for you?
I actually think this is a very useful way to classify patients because when you encounter a cosmetic patient, the consultation is a bidirectional goodness of fit moment, in my opinion. So I consult with people before I treat them because I want to make sure that their goals are realistic and achievable with the techniques and treatments that I have accessible to me. And that we also are on the same page in terms of where we're going and what we're going to try to accomplish. I think that the most complicated patients to treat in this algorithm would be the correction patients with either an incorrectable problem by the procedures that we have or with sort of the invisible corrective thing where there's a very minor cosmetic alteration that the patient is hyper focused on. And the correction of that in that patient's mind supersedes everything else. And I think these are the patients that you see get relatively cartoonish adjustments of things, like they might have 6 nose jobs or something because they continue to be perseverant about one facial feature. And assessing very carefully for body dysmorphia is extremely important because it's a very slippery slope. Once you've done an intervention on a patient in a certain way, you kind of own that body part, and a patient's sort of outcomes related to it in some way belong to you. So you have to be a little bit careful in assessing these patients to make sure you're not entering into a devil's bargain with them there. You're going to be kind of married to this complicated cosmetic quest for unattainable perfection.
If you want to learn more about that, you can tune into episode 85 when Tony Picus was our guest and talked about body dysmorphic disorder and a particular rating scale that I don't think she developed, but she's involved in this kind of stuff, and we talk about it there.
It's a very useful algorithm. I kind of have it in the back of my mind when I'm doing consultations.